So the Mississauga Food Bank serves the city of Mississauga, which is actually Canada's sixth largest city, Ontario's third largest city. So oftentimes people think of Mississauga as being a commuter city for Toronto, but in fact, more people come into Mississauga for work than go out of it. And so it has the same big city problems as anywhere else you would imagine. High cost of living, especially including housing. And so for us, our purpose is really to serve those who don't have the financial means to be able to afford food in the city. So last year, we served about 27,000 unique individuals in the city. And that's through our network of 53 agencies. So we don't serve any folks directly ourselves, but convene this network of agencies coming together: neighborhood food banks, snack and meal programs, breakfast clubs, shelters, drop-ins, seniors, youth programming, all anywhere where folks can get food in the community. And so this past year, we shared food for just shy of 5 million meals just here in the city of Mississauga. Immediately, when the pandemic first started in March 2020, we saw an increase in demand at the food banks right away. And so with so many folks with suddenly out of work, and people just don't have the savings to be able to miss even one or two paychecks, we had folks coming to the food bank who never anticipated that they would need our support. And so those early days, I think, in addition to the personal kind of confusion and fear we all had and wondering what was going to happen, seeing all of these first time clients come to the food bank was really hard. Overall, we've seen about a 60% increase in clients, and those numbers haven't gone down since before the pandemic. So the people who needed the help are still with us now. So the first change we made is that most of our neighborhood food banks operate on a grocery store model where a client can go around and pick what they'd like for themselves. But to decrease the amount of time that someone spent in the facility or the number of volunteers that needed to be there, we almost immediately switched to a hamper program where we had pre-packed hampers with 7 days of food in them that could be more quickly distributed to people. And so we made that transition very early on, but that was a change in our operations because our volunteers didn't typically pack hampers. So we had to come up with systems and procedures for that. And secondly, in late 2019, we had launched a new program called Food Bank to Home. That's a delivery program for folks who can't get to the food bank because they're a senior, they have a disability, perhaps they're a new parent. But it's really anybody who has a transportation barrier to going to their neighborhood food bank and doesn't have another adult in their life who could perhaps pick it up for them. So thankfully, we had launched that program the fall before. And when COVID started, we had just under 50 households that were on the Food Bank to Home program. And at the height of the pandemic, we had gone to serving 1,000 households with home delivery. So whether it was seniors who were self-isolating, whether it was young parents, parents of young kids whose kids were out of school and they didn't want to, put all their kids in the car to go to the food bank, right away, people needed this delivery support. And so we quickly had to ramp up, find volunteers. We couldn't manage it all on paper and spreadsheets anymore, but put a digital system in place. Hire staff to really run this program so that we could serve all the people who are coming to us in the community. So home delivery, I think we've all used during the pandemic a little bit more, whether it's shopping more online or click and collect for your groceries. And the same reasons that we all wanted to do that are the reasons our clients wanted to do that and not go to the food bank. So I'm glad we had that program in place to be able to support people staying home and staying safe. A story recently of someone who was at one of our neighborhood food banks, and just to kind of give a quote, and then I'll share a little bit more about her story. She says, "What I like about coming here is that they give you all the food that you need to eat, not just staples: eggs, milk, rice, fruit and vegetables, and meat. And I know that those foods are important for my family day to day." And so I think, folks sometimes think food banks give out, boxes and hampers and cans, which we do. But additionally, for people to also have all of what they need to make some meals, fruit and vegetables and all those other staples, I think goes a long way. So, it was someone who came to a food bank for the very first time. And I think what I really appreciated about her story is that she said when she started coming to the food bank, she found help for things beyond just food. The food bank, like many do across the country, had a program for Christmas gifts. They helped to make a connection to get her into a specialist, a doctor she needed to see, that she'd been on a waiting list for quite some time. So they rallied around to help her sort that out. She said that they were able to help with other supplies for her kids for back to school. And so, I think to hear someone saying that the money they would be spending on groceries, they're now able to put towards paying their back rent or some of these other things are those great examples of the ways that food banks have come together to really support clients during this time. So a family saying that they had, items for their kids for school, all the food they needed to eat, connections to other services in the community, mentioned masks and hand sanitizers and all those things. Food banks have really provided, this food bank in particular, those wraparound service to make a huge difference for families like this. Early pandemic days, for sure, for me, I shed a lot of tears and was just so anxious because I kept thinking, how are we going to keep up with this? What if we don't have enough food? What if we don't have enough money? What if our staff gets sick? All those what ifs that leaders were thinking about in that context. And I think Feed Ontario's quick action and the funding that Feed Ontario received from the provincial government to provide pre-packed hampers across the board really was the only way that we were able to make it through in those early months when the supply chain was slow, because we had some money, but we couldn't get the food. And then we were still going to have to pack it. And so Feed Ontario's quick work to get those hampers together was truly the reason that we were able to to bridge that gap in the early days. And I don't know how we would have done that on our own without the support. It meant that people were still getting a balanced hamper of food. We had them pre-packed right away and they could just be distributed quickly. It was so well received in our community and so appreciated by our agencies and clients. So I think that quick action, I know made a difference for us, and I'm sure did for other food banks across the province as well. Well, as a food bank, I'm so grateful for the support that came via Feed Ontario during the pandemic, which I know only came thanks to the support of so many across the province, government foundations, corporations, and individuals. And so my message of encouragement, I guess, would be, besides thanks for helping get us this far, is that we've all realized together the work's not yet done. And Feed Ontario does so much work to provide the food that food banks need today and the resources and financial help. But additionally, now's the opportunity for those supporters to also step up and support what we can do to reduce the need for food banks going forward. I've heard lots of people in the community say, how can we build back better after COVID? And I think this is one of those areas. So my word of encouragement to supporters is to look at what else they can do to decrease the need for food banks in their community, by who they vote for, by the companies they buy from, by the things they talk about with their neighbors. So thank you for what you've done so far, and just a request for you to continue to help us where we're trying to get to go next.